I'll tell you what, my mum's determined, because I've got this Sunday off, that I'm going to church. If this plane lands within the next 2 minutes, I'm going to church. All right then. So I sat there and I prayed out loud and I said, okay, God, please let this plane land. 1 minute, 58 seconds, we touched down. And she looked at me and she went, looks like I'm going to church.
So, welcome back to the podcast, and with us for this episode, we have Tabitha Warren. Lovely Tabitha Warren, who is married to one of our editors for the podcast, to Peter. So, welcome to the podcast, Tabitha.
Thank you.
Tabitha is you are currently a stay-at-home mum. That's correct. Yeah. You have, as well as being married to Pete, you have two sons,
Yes.
twins, James and William, and you openly share the highs and lows of your twinning adventure,
Yeah.
which we'll get into, no doubt. You also, in your past, you have served as a cabin crew on Monarch Airlines, right? And that was a decade ago or so, is that?
Yeah, gosh, yes, it must be about 10 years ago now.
Yeah,
Yes.
and also a bit of a stint in Starbucks.
Yeah.
That's right, or
Yeah.
Bugs, as you used to call it.
Bugs. Starbucks.
Right. You also, as well as being a stay-at-home mum, you're not, well, you're certainly active with twins, but you're also you're very involved with church and a charity. So you're the secretary of the trust
Yes.
at New Life.
Trustees.
Yes, and you're also a parent governor in Rugby
Parent
School.
governor.
Yeah. You're also a passionate community organizer. So you've done charity bake sales, litter picks, rugby camps and art performances and that type of thing as well. So very active and involved there. So certainly, I think quite a busy lifestyle, right? And there's also you're also a bit of an interest in aloe vera products as well. Is that right?
Yes, that kind of, yeah.
Bit of a business venture.
Yeah.
Fizzled out. Is it? You're so busy with everything else. I mean, doing all the charity work and organisation.
Yeah, it kind of came to nothing, that one, sadly. I tried, and it sadly was one of those things
That's all we
that
can
didn't
do.
happen. But I mean, like you said, too many pies.
There's too much on, yeah. But you're certainly a massively active part of the community here in rugby. You've got a deep love of books and reading as well. Aspire to build your own library one day. Is that still a dream?
It's slowly coming together in our back spare room. I'm building my own library/craft room in the back spare room at the moment.
Yeah. There's also some strange kind of theme going on with pirates with you and your brother. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a pirate thing going on. Yes, because my brother, younger brother, I should say, because I've got two.
Right. Yeah.
So my younger brother, he likes to dress up as pirate, and sometimes he's very flamboyant. Let's put it that way. And yes, so he for a time he actually worked with the sort of a pirate, what do you call it, reenactment type thing. And he
Okay.
was living in Cornwall.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so that was a kind of a thing that we had between us, because I'm fascinated by the history of pirates. I'm fascinated by all of that, and so Joe is as well. But he's also fascinated by the reenactment side of it. So between that, we've got a thing going with pirates.
Have you been down to Penzance?
Oh yeah.
Ever down to Penzance and
Well, I lived in Cornwall for 10 years, so plenty of times to be down to Penzance. Plenty of times.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they definitely. I mean, we lived down in Poole for a little while a few years ago, and they had like they often have like pirate events and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just a very popular thing, and it's quite fun to do. I have a little story about that actually. I'll share because it is an amusing story. So our nephew, when he was 7, we brought him. That was the time we were living down there, so we had him come down for his birthday. The night before, we went to the beach and we buried a treasure chest So
Love
literally
it.
like a little treasure chest, put a load of stuff in it and buried it. And then when he came, so we used to do geocaching. So
Okay.
we had the GPS and putting the coordinates. So he'd been with us geocaching before. We knew what it was like. So just gave him the GPS, said, "Oh, there's a buried. I've researched and there's a buried treasure on the beach. So he's got his GPS. We go down there. So he's got his spade, digs it all up. Um, and then it was like, oh, cool, open. He's like, no, no, no. Why don't you want to open it? Well, because there's pirates around and I'm stealing their treasure. And I was like, oh, great. Because we'd really kind of
Yeah.
sold this fantasy. So I said to him, well, okay, let's go over there to that part of the beach and then they won't know, and then we'll open it there. So we'd go there, open it up and everything. And it was hilarious. It was, and then later, of course, there were pirates walking around dressed up
Oh,
on the streets down by the
yeah.
quay, and he was just absolutely he was really scared. So
Oh
Donna
dear.
was like, "Oh, let's take him and just go say hello to them," and he got to meet the pirates and stuff. Then he goes back to school and he tells them all like, "Oh yeah, we found buried treasure," and didn't believe him.
A memory for a 7-year-old. I love it.
Yeah, I always remind him of that now, and he just rolls his eyes. You got that to come, the old with your boys.
Oh yes.
Um, that's yeah. So that's that then. So let's talk about let's start off with some light questions. If you had to pick one meme or funny anecdote that perfectly sums up a typical day with James and William, what would it be?
Ah, funny enough, there is one, and it's actually on a pirate theme. And it's this one that says, most mothers run a tight ship. I run a pirate ship. There's lots of fighting, lots of the occasional swearing, apologies, but the occasional swearing, fighting, arguing, and the little mutiny from the little horrors that I created number. And yes, that sums me up. So yeah, so I don't run a tight ship, I run a pirate ship. It's
Yeah.
chaos, basically. Mutiny and chaos.
Mutiny is an interesting word, but I imagine quite a fitting word, having known the boys and seeing them running around a church at times. Um, you had the twins in 2019, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're 7 years old now, 6 or 7, yeah, 6. Um, when you first found out that you were gonna have twins, what was bigger? Was it your smile or your shopping list?
Yeah. Um, I'm not sure is the honest answer. Probably my smile. I mean, we kind of had half an inkling that it might happen because Peter, when we got engaged, we'd been having some time prayers, we do, and he'd got a distinct word saying that we would have twins. Now, we put it down to the fact that practical, because we had said that if we were to have children, we'd like two. And so Peter put it down to his practical mind, thinking, well, if we have two in one go, that's out the way, that's done. Yay, great.
I love the thinking of that, yeah.
So that he wrote it down in his prayer book, but that was where his mind was thinking. It's just so when I did fall pregnant, he said, "Oh, it's going to be twins," and I said, "There's no twins in your family. There's no twins in my family.
He just knew.
Why?" And he said, "No, no, no, it's going to be twins." And so when we went into the scan, because of the way the bed was and the screen, he could see, but I couldn't. And so she put the jelly on, and then she put the sound thing on, and his face, he went. This look of shock came over, and he said, "It's two."
Wow.
So we both went, okay, right. Well, God clearly had an idea in that we have no clue what's about. But so yeah, so the one thing I will remember is that the sonographer, when she printed off, she said, "You're remarkably calm for a couple who's just found out they've had twins." And we both said,
He just kind of
"We
already
kind
used to
of
that.
knew about 2 years ago." And she said, explain. So we had to go through the story and explain. And she went, right, okay then. So yes, I think once it sank in, then yes, my shopping list suddenly went
Yes.
crazy because it was double everything. And then obviously they were prem. So then there was all the extras that come with that because newborn clothes didn't even begin to fit. So you had to get some other clothes.
They just couldn't, wait to get out and start tearing up the neighborhood.
Basically, they wanted to cause chaos.
You do strike me as someone though that it has, that kind of faces life in a way that is just like, well, okay, this is what's coming. Let's deal with it now.
Yeah, I, yeah. Out of the two of us, I have to say, as much as I love you, Peter, but he's definitely the more stressful one out of the two of us. I tend to be the one that goes, if it's worth stressing, I'll stress. Otherwise,
You've previously said the boys seem to know exactly when you're about to eat. Have you ever managed to finish a meal without interruptions since their arrival?
no.
Apart from when you ship them off to the
Yes,
grandparents and
yes. Yeah, that's about the only. That's why I make the most of it because I actually get a dinner that's mine. So we had that fun on holiday because we've recently been to the Isle of Wight with Peter's dad, Granddaddy Philip, and we went out for a breakfast. And I said, "Well, I'll get the large breakfast." And Granddad Philip said, "You sure you really want this?" I said, "Yeah, yeah, it's fine." So the boys had beans on toast, and Peter and Dad had just a normal breakfast. And I had this large breakfast, knowing that at least half of it would go to the boys. And fair and true to their word, they'd finished their beans on toast, and that was it. They wanted most of my breakfast. So I ended up with a small breakfast anyway, because the other half of my breakfast went to them. So knowing that, I was like, no, no.
Yeah, do you ever find that I find um speaking to other parents, like, or seeing other parents, like sometimes the kids just leave their food and then you just end up having to eat whatever they've left. Do you ever get that situation, or is it the
Not
opposite?
really.
No,
No, there's
they just
occasions, but not
no, they're
often.
pretty good with food. It's just
Yeah.
you don't get to finish your plate,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. More often than not, it is. Yes, exactly that.
Did it is it do they enjoy the same things? Is it easy to kind of entertain them, or do they have
Generally, yeah,
so if you put one
generally.
movie on, there's no argument, right?
Mm,
Or
it depends. It depends how mutinous they're feeling that day, is the honest answer.
right, okay.
Because some days it's fine, and other days James turns into a boss baby and he will just override. And William, being the quiet one, he
More
just sort
sensitive.
of just goes, ugh, or he whines about it, but actually doesn't do anything about it. And it's like, right. So, yeah, so sometimes you have to mediate, but generally, yeah, generally they're okay.
So, you often get them matching outfits as well, as I think a lot of parents of twins do. So if you're really honest, is that a cost-saving exercise or is it a future blackmail for when they're teenagers?
Ah, bit of both.
Do
There
you
are certain,
get them dressed up in costumes and then go, yeah, this is going to be a good one for when they're 18?
I think there are certain aspects that are occasions it's a case of I'm definitely getting you in a picture of that for when you're 18. But generally, yes, it is a cost saving. Although, to be fair, there are occasions when the boys don't want to match.
Right.
So
Okay.
I've started recently giving them two options of clothes, and they can either choose to match or choose to be different. So sometimes they will not want to be the same, and then other days they're quite happy to be. So yeah, so it's a mix basically.
I bet you get a lot of those 2-for-1 sales and
Oh yes,
those
yes.
coupons and stuff. Yeah. Um, what takes up more space in the car? Your twin gear for a weekend away or Pete's just in case items?
Definitely the twin gear.
Yeah.
Yeah, seeing as I'm the one who does pretty much most of the packing.
What kind of things does Pete bring in his, for just in case for his holidays and stuff? I know he brings his camp. He's got his camera.
Yeah, yeah. He usually has a rucksack full of tech gear. That's more often than not what he's packed. So it tends to be that tends to be his. Everything else is me.
All right.
So I tend to just pack everything because it's just easier, as Peter said. Peter said enough times that he's bound to forget something or something happens, and it's just easier if I just go into pack mode and just get it all done.
I think so. Yeah, I would expect nothing less. I also had when I used to do consulting, I used to have like a sort of my tech case, which I pack into a suitcase and take with me. But yeah, didn't have twins to think about, so that's the main thing. You have described your twinning adventure, and you've even mentioned, I think you said God creates twins when he makes a face he likes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, what's your most surprising, unexpected 2-for-1 moment you've had with the twins that still makes you laugh?
I don't know, actually. I mean, I've had some funny comments. I know that. I mean, I've had one person who said, "Goodness, are they both yours?" And I turned around and said, "No, I nicked the other one from a nursery." I mean, seriously. So I have had that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Um, I mean, watching them play together sometimes is quite amusing because obviously you've got the difference that you get with siblings. Having siblings myself, I know that no matter how close an age, there is still that age gap. And so you're not quite going through the same thing at the same time. And so although you play, it's a different element to those two are going through the same thing at the same time.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, so sometimes watching them play and just create things and trash the house sometimes because at the moment they're big into forts. So at the moment, all the cushions tend to get pulled off the sofas and built into these crazy forts. And I'm like, just get on with it until, as long as you tidy up at bedtime, get on with it.
Kind of keeps them occupied. And
That's the
yeah.
thing. It's like, well, do you know what? Keeps you happy.
Do they have their own like language or anything? Or sort of, the kids. I know kids. Sometimes they try to hide things quite amusing because they're not very good at it. But do they have any kind of, do they try to sort of, I don't know, they try and play you off against each other?
Yeah, sometimes I do hear them whispering and I'm going, yeah, nice try. So I have heard them do that. Yeah, well, they did initially when they were actually learning to talk. They had this weird sort of. Apparently, it sounded a cross between Dutch and French, and the reason is because there was a Dutch gentleman in church, and he heard them chattering away to each other, and he said, "That sounds Dutch." And I went, "Well, there is no Dutch in the family, and I have
Wow.
no idea where they would get anything like that. I think it's just them." But apparently, um, as they've got a bit older, it tends to be just I hear them whispering to each other or pretending to whisper, but not, properly whispering. It's like, yeah, I can kind of still hear you. Sorry, kid. It kind of you need to
Yeah.
try a bit better at that.
Do they ever kind of rat each other out as well? Or
Yes, James is the best one for doing that. Comes home and goes, William's done this. I'm going, yeah, well, you probably started it. So probably William's in retaliation to what you started more often than not,
Mhm.
unfortunately. But yes, and their favourite is to try and play me and Daddy off. So they'll come and say, Daddy said, and I said, really? So I go and ask Daddy, and Daddy's like, no. I'm like, well, there you go then. They've done the same to Daddy. So they've gone to Daddy saying, I've said something. And he's gone, no, I don't think
Well, you've described your family as running a pirate ship. Um, there is this pirate theme going on that we touched on. So I guess where did this kind of fascination with pirates come from? I know your brother sort of dresses up the stuff, but I don't know. Is it something you both kind of had to begin with? Is it because you said you've got some kind of you're just very interested in pirate lore.
so.
But where do you think that started?
Ah, um, I think it's my general love of history. That's the thing. I've got a big love of history, and that kind of big transitions in time, and that was one of them that fascinates me when society and life in general and things was changing and moving, and there was all sorts of strange, new things coming out. Um, so yeah, so I think that for me generally was where it came from, that general interest in the history of it. So that then led into learning about the pirates of the Golden Age.
So do you have any stories of that interesting stories you can recall?
Which ones? Because you've got your famous ones like Blackbeard
Yeah.
and Petite, and then you've got Calico Jack, and with Anne Bonny and Mary Read, who were the only two women pirates,
Right.
um, and both escaped because they were able to plead their bellies, as they say. So they were pregnant when they were able to get away with hanging. And it seems Anne may have actually got out of prison, and she may have gone back to her father's plantation, and died there, an old maid. But the records are sketchy,
Mm.
obviously. So yeah, so you've got all the famous ones that you know. Yeah, it's just that general, like I said, it's just that general fascination that you had the War of Spanish Succession that led to this huge amount of privateers and huge amount of Navy people, and then suddenly they were dumped in the middle of the Caribbean and told, find your own way home because we don't need you anymore, and then wondered why they went a bit upset and went, oh right, okay then, and sort of went down the route they went down.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite
That's
fascinating when
interesting.
you're
Yeah.
looking at that.
Yeah, I suppose you can see sort of things like that happening today, not necessarily on the seas, but you can see sort of situations where people are being kind of dumped
Yes.
en masse, and then there's, the all sorts of hell breaks out, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Yes.
Hell's a strong word, but it's all
Yeah.
sorts of chaos.
Chaos.
Yeah.
Takes its cues.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that was, yeah, very interesting, very interesting. But it seems like you're well read on the subject, though. Yeah.
I was listening to a fascinating podcast called it's called Real Pirates.
Mm,
It's a Noiser one or something, which is
mm,
a fascinating one because it looks into the history, and it looks into the law, and it
mm,
looks into what we actually know,
mm.
as opposed to simply the stories. And so it
Are,
gives you
are
full
they
depth.
are they romanticized too much? Does it, we all know like Jack Sparrow, and
Yeah.
anytime you watch a movie, the pirates are always like almost like the good guys. Is that
Yeah, I think they are a bit because
yeah,
it was nasty, short, and brutish,
yeah,
basically. Um, because there was I think it was Henry Irving, the pirate, who said that a pirate's life for me is one that ends, lives full but ends shortly, basically, because he knew that it was. And if you look at the pirates' careers, they never lasted more than a year or two. They were sometimes only 6 months, and you're just thinking, and yet we've made such a big thing out of
yeah.
such a short span of time. You're thinking how, but it's because of that.
Mm.
They've been picked up by Hollywood and various other places and things and
Yes,
developed,
yes.
basically.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, just slightly changing the subject. You spent some time at Monarch Airlines. Sounds like that was also a bit of an adventure. Not on the sea, but in the air.
Yes.
You had early flights at 4 a.m. and you were, it was a very, again, chaotic schedule. Must have been good practice actually for having,
Yeah.
for twins and so on. Yeah. 18-hour days and things like that. What's what's the most memorable incident happening on a flight that you can look back on and laugh about now?
We had an interesting flight when with a Dalaman flight, which was we basically termed it the flight from hell because it was chaos. Um, Basically, it was delayed by 2 hours to start, and then when we arrived in Dalaman, we were told that we were bringing a an illegal back,
Oh,
um, and that the back 4 rows were going, the people in the
yeah,
back four
blocked off.
rows,
Yeah.
uh, because we'd had a full flight, um, they are going to be on a next flight next morning, but they hadn't told the passengers. We were to tell the
Yes,
passengers.
the other ones.
So they get down. So they're 2 hours delayed already. They get down to the gate. We then have to say, oh, by the way, you're actually not on this flight till the next morning. And they refuse to tell them. So you can guess who got the stick and who got all of that. They then brought this deportee, and he's got chains on his arms and his feet. He's got 4 handlers, and he's drugged up to the nines, and you can see that in his eyes. So they plonk him down.
No way.
Then on the way back, we had 4 medical emergencies, a drunk guy, which we had to arrest and pin to the seat. Well, that was fun because basically he got drunk and then tried to smack me because we didn't have any bacon sandwiches. At which point I floored him, sent him down to the floor. 2 great big rugby players said, can we help you at all? I went, yeah, just pin him to that seat while I go and get what's needed, and I'll be back in a minute. Rush to the front, have to phone the captain to say, we've got this incident. We need to, strap this guy to the seat because he's danger to himself and the rest of the flight. And then go back and sort him out. So we managed to do all of that, but then arrived back in England. We had been delayed being allowed back in because of paperwork or some such. A 18-hour day by this point is a 21-hour day. And We then land, we get the passengers off, the police come on to get the deportee off. However, because of the paperwork, it wasn't correct. They said to the handlers, "What has he been given? Because we can't let him off unless we know what drugs he's been given." What you know?
Oh my
And they said,
goodness.
"Well, I don't know. Well, he was given something by the doctor. Why didn't you get them?" So we had to wait another half an hour for the paramedic to come and check this guy over, to give him the all clear so the police could then take him off. We then had to get back to the crew room, write up all the incidences, which took another hour. I then it was a case of, by the time I got home, I think it turned into a 23-hour duty. I then got a phone call 6 hours later from crewing saying, "Oh, by the way, you're supposed to be on standby and we're calling you in from Malaga." And I turned and went, "Do you realize how late I got back? I literally just gone to bed." And they went, "Well, yeah, no, 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 no. I was on the Dalaman yesterday." And they were, "Which Dalaman?" I said, "The night Dalaman, the delayed Dalaman." All I got was silence down the end of the line. And then the captain went on and went, "Enjoy your rest. You've got a rest day and a standby, rest day and a day off." And I went, "Yeah, I think I should do." Bye. A fuming. I was like, "Really? 6 hours? Are you trying to call me from?" Yeah. So that was definitely the most dramatic one I've had. But yes, we've had some interesting ones as well.
I don't think a lot of people realize like what goes into that, right? And what you have to
Oh
do
yeah.
behind behind
Yeah.
the scenes.
Well, that's the thing. So many people think it is trolley dolly. It is simply a waitress in the sky, and it's not. It's 6 to 8 weeks. You've got to learn basic firefighting, basic police training, basic hostage taking, basic.
Taking, oh
You've
my
got to
gosh.
learn that basic.
Yeah.
You've got to learn how to deal with drunk people. You've got to deal with customer services, silver service. So if you have a VIP on the flight, you've got to learn how to deal with all of that. So it's just, yeah, survival skills. You've got to learn basic survival skills as well in case something happens. And yeah, it's intense. It's great, but it's intense.
So what drew you to this career? How long did you do that for?
7 years, I believe it was. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So that was that till you met Pete or
Yes,
yeah.
yes. So that was, I left in the September that we got married, and then Monarch crashed literally a month later.
Do you miss it?
Sort of, but not really, because obviously my life's changed now, and because of the twins, I've got enough chaos.
If you had the opportunity, or if they as they grow up, would you consider doing it, going back to it again, or do you
No,
think?
really, is the honest answer. I don't think I would, because it was a great experience, a great time, but I think I've moved on,
Yeah.
and I've changed and my life has changed. And so yeah, so I think, yeah, I think I've done my time, as it were.
I was actually gonna ask you, just rewind it, but like, how did you get into that job then? What did you aspire to be a
No, it was one
stewardess?
of these. It was one of these. It's funny enough, because I was working in Starbucks at the time in Brighton, and we had a regular lady from EasyJet, and she used to come in occasionally. And I got chatting to her, and I got to know her a little bit, and she said, "You've got some great customer service skills. You should really look into cabin crew." She said, "I think you'd absolutely love it." And I was like, well, I'm not so sure, but okay. So I did an online course, and then got an interview with EasyJet, but didn't get through. So I wasn't sure whether to still keep going on, but my mum and my sister-in-law and a few others said to me, "No, no, 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 keep trying, keep trying. Don't just fall at the first hurdle." So I thought, okay. And then there was uh, I say mini training session. It was a taster session type thing of sort of things you might have to do on a day-to-day basis, and sort of thing training you might have to do if you were to get into cabin crew at East Midlands Airport. So me and my mum went up, because mum used it as a great excuse to go to Nottingham, because she was like, "Oh, I want to go and see, I know there's things in Nottingham I want to go and see, so I'm going to go and do that while you go do your training," which was fine. And I did that, and then I got an interview with Monarch Airlines, and yeah, and then
Got in.
that was it.
And it wasn't it. And just to explain it for people who are not familiar with this type of job, you had these periods of where you wouldn't be flying, right? So you do
Yeah.
these trips. Do you, so when you go on a flight, are you coming back immediately on a different flight, or are you staying for a few days? How does that work?
Monarch was mostly short haul, so it was a lot of tarmac. So I flew out, hour turnaround back again.
Yeah, right.
But I was at the stage when I started, it was at the stage where they're beginning to drop the long haul. So I did manage to get a couple of Gambia trips. So I got 7 days down route, which was quite fun. So you fly out, you get 7 days, and then fly back again, which was always a fun one. Um, yeah, and we did a stint in 78 hours in Paris, because we were helping Air France because their planes had gone tech. And so they were borrowing our planes, but their crew weren't trained on our planes. And so, but because we couldn't understand how, because the way Air France work, their their system, how, basically their things like the drinks and stuff and things like that. That's a little bit different. So we had to have some Air France on there as well. So yeah, it was all a bit crazy and complicated, but that meant 78 hours in Paris, doing 2 flights, but 2 short flights, which was great. That was a fun one because again, I was the only one organised enough thinking we've got a full, I think it was 27 hours, no flights, nothing happening. We could go and do a day in Paris. So I had organised myself, if 24 hours in Paris, what to go and see and do. So I'd written a list. I'd written out the metro, so I knew which stops to go to, how to get there, everything else, all the rest of it. I'd got myself all organised as to what I was going to do. Nobody else had thought about this. And when we arrived back after our flight, it was an overnight flight, and we arrived back at 2 o'clock in the morning. Everyone's saying, so what are we going to do with our day? And I said, well, I've got my plan sorted and I'm heading off at 9 o'clock. So I come downstairs at 9 o'clock thinking, well, I'm by myself. Everyone's off dinner. I think, no, 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 no. There's the rest of the crew standing there going, so what are we doing today? What now? So basically, I ended up this tour guide and I had this bright pink umbrella, which was great. So basically, I was just wandering around Paris, this bright pink umbrella going, Monarch crew with me over here. So, because I was the only one organised enough to actually think, So we did that. And I did do a week working out of Cork because for a couple of summers we had a summer base out there. So I did do a week out there. And occasionally I'd be sent off to either Birmingham or East Midlands or Luton or wherever just to help out occasionally with flights there. But yeah, it was never anywhere big, glamorous or anything like, no.
So being behind the scenes, what what sort of tips could you give us for people who are flying and traveling, to get on the good side with the flight crew?
Just be nice. That's the simplest
Just be
way.
nice.
Just
You
be
have a long
nice.
day.
Don't be pretentious.
Yeah.
Don't be difficult. Just be nice and understand that it is a lot of hard work, and they aren't there just to pamper you. Basically, that's what I would say.
Is it when you're flying now, do you is there any times you notice things going on and you kind of think, oh, you either you know what's happening behind the scenes, but it's kind of being covered up?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. And my mum and dad have done the same. They've been on a couple of flights, and my mum said, "Oh, you'd never believe because this didn't happen." And she's going, "I only knew it because of what you've done."
But yeah, codes like, oh, could the flight attendants come to the top of the plane? And is there kind of secret codes so the passengers don't?
Not really, no. No, you kind of, yeah. The only codes we ever had was when we were in the middle of the aisle trying to get some food or drinks from the galley, and they couldn't hear you over the noise, so you'd have your own random sign language,
Right.
which was hilarious sometimes. So yeah, but other than that, no.
So you have also featured. Now I found the magazine, but unfortunately I couldn't get a copy.
Oh, heavens above! Oh, wow!
Yes, there was
You should tell me I've got a copy at home.
well, spoke to your husband, but unfortunately,
You didn't look in the
didn't
loft.
deliver. So yeah, we have a magazine. There was a magazine where you were interviewed for your,
Yeah.
sort of your faith and
Faith
your
and flying.
faith in flying. Do you want to give us like just maybe a little recap of that, and just how that?
Yeah, well, it's a little bit what we've already mentioned. It was
Mhm.
explaining how I came back to my faith, which was through Camp America. For those that don't know, that's a group that is for 18 to 25-year-olds. You go and live and work out at some camp in America, you get paid for it, and then you can either come home or you can go traveling. And I did that for 3 summers. Great fun. And I was 18 when I first did it, and I'd never been an extended period, and certainly not that far away from home. So I sat on this plane going to New York thinking, not sure anything. Um, and I'd been drifting away from the faith because I'd been getting into the wrong kind of people, and all sorts of nonsense had been going on previous to all this. So I just sat on the plane and I was saying, right, God, if you're real, if what mum and dad have been brought me up to believe isn't a whole load of nonsense, please, please let this be the great time. Let good things happen and let me come home safely. And he did, obviously, and I did it for another 2 years. Some great stories from that. So yeah, so that was great fun. And then it was basically, as I've already said, the rest of the magazine story was then how I got into my flying. And then it was explaining a little bit how, while I'm flying, although you can't be obvious with your face, so you can't wear crosses, or you could, but under your uniform, you couldn't blatantly show your faith.
Yep.
You couldn't blatantly talk about your faith. You couldn't just go up to someone and say, "Do you know Jesus?"
No.
So, but if someone, which a number of occasions did, if people would talk to me and said, "Oh, you're a Christian," say, "Yes, I am." What's that like? And I could talk to them about my
Yes.
faith. So if there was that interaction, I could discuss it. And some of the conversations I had with crew and with passengers was amazing.
Wow. I wouldn't have expected that would come up.
Oh yeah, I mean we had one which I thought was brilliant. We had one on one flight. It was a night flight, so everyone's asleep. So occasionally you go out with a torch going, is anyone alive out there? While everyone's snoring in, which is great because they're not hassling. But we were just sat in the back and we were just talking, and it came up that I have faith because the Claire who I was talking to, she her mum is Christian, and she kept trying to get Claire to come to church, and Claire was saying, yeah, not really. So she was talking to me. Anyway, we got stuck in what's known as a hold pattern. So basically, you get, because there's so many planes trying to land, you have to do the circle. So you slowly circle down then you can land. Because we were stuck in this hold pattern, Claire said, right, okay, I'll tell you what, my mum's determined because I've got this Sunday off that I'm going to church. If this plane lands within the next 2 minutes, I'm going to church. All right then. So I sat there and I prayed out loud and I said, okay, God, please let this plane land. 1 minute, 58 seconds, we touched down. And she looked at me and she went, looks like I'm going to church. And then I think it was 2 years later, I got a message from her saying, just been baptized.
Wow.
Which is wonderful. So it was amazing. So the conversations that sometimes came up was just brilliant.
That's awesome. And an answer to prayer.
Yes.
A very practical,
Yes.
quick answer to prayer, right? That's a really interesting story, and it's really interesting that you get that opportunity to talk to people, especially passengers, I suppose. Yeah. Uh, cool. So let's switch back to your family then. You talked about James and William being tiny prem babies. So maybe you could reflect a little on those early days and what it was like navigating that sort of that newborn phase, especially the premature aspect, and what complications that brought for you guys.
Yeah. Well, because they had six, well, 6 and 7.5 weeks. So James came home first after 6 weeks in hospital. William struggled initially to learn that you have to breathe and eat at the same time and not just do one. Bless his heart. So he took a little longer to come home. I mean, the difficulty in a sense was the fact that Peter's paternity, we decided there's no point in him having that while they're in hospital. That meant that he had to drop me off at hospital so that I could spend the day with them. He'd then go off, he'd go and work. He'd then come back, spend a little bit of time, and then take us back home. And then we'd do that all over again. And we'd do that, for 6, 7.5 weeks straight. So that was incredible difficulty. But then when we came home, yeah, I don't know really. It was just trying to find the navigating, trying to figure out, as you do with all newborns. But then obviously, like you said, you've got two, so it was just trying to find a routine that worked for us. I was very grateful that my mum came down from Stafford, where my dad's last posting was. So my mum came down, stayed a little while from Stafford, and she periodically would do that. Which was great because that gave me a bit of respite and a bit of help and a bit of sorting stuff out. Yeah, it was just the general trying to find the routine, trying to find what worked, trying to find the different things, because every baby is different. So what works for one child will not necessarily work for the other. And sometimes with twins, it's exactly that. It's, well, that one worked for your brother, but that obviously isn't working for you. So I've got to try and find something else.
Well, we did discuss that a little just before we started recording, didn't we? The personality, the trying to think, not personalities, but the they change attitudes of what, one week one likes something and now they don't like it in the other one. Do they swap it? You see that they swap over?
Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think, is it a little bit intentionally playing off each other, or is it literally just kind of some strange behavioral change that you're seeing?
I'm not sure is the honest answer.
Yeah.
I think it is just a bit of kids being kids, and in general there are certain aspects that all children will go through, and so it just happens that sometimes they go through it at the same time, and sometimes they go through it one followed by the other. So yeah, so it's a mix, I suppose, really.
So you've used the hashtag loving this crazy twin mum life.
Yeah. Ironically, sometimes.
What does that mean to you now? Looking at, now they're sort of 6 years old. What kind of things really does that? I suppose, let me think of the question I'm trying to ask here. But what does it mean to you now? Raising twins.
Chaos is definitely the first word that comes to mind. Yeah, no, it is a challenge, but it's a positive one. And it's fabulous. I love seeing their personalities coming out, and the fact that they have so different personalities is a wonderful thing, because although they have that twin bond, and you do see that like at bedtime, because although they've got a bunk bed, more often than not, you will find they're sleep cuddled up together on the same bed because they don't like to be apart. And you'll find, like, start of the holidays, the boys went and had like a sports day. So they were able to try out lots of different sports. And James was quite happy to go in, but William was not happy as soon as he realised Mummy wasn't staying. But James just said, "It's all right, mate," and took hold of his hand and took him in. So you've got lovely little moments like that, which are just beautiful. Yes, they do try and kill each other as well at times. By no means are they saints. Yes, it is just trying to navigate, and then it's also trying to get sometimes some mums of singletons to understand just how crazy it actually is.
What are the key differences? Like, how would you?
Well, one is the quietness and the calmness, if I'm brutally honest, because I have a couple of single mums who are really good friends with, and the boys are really great friends with them.
But they say, oh, my son will sit and do this, this, and this, and everything else. And I'm saying, yeah, but he's not got somebody winding him up and, you know, egging him on, whereas these do. They play off each other. So there is sometimes when it's a case, yeah, that's very well and good, but that isn't going to work. Or there's things like they say, well, I take, you know, my son off to the cinema, and I'm going, well, I wouldn't dare take them off. And they're going, well, why not? Because they wind each other up, and trying to sit, getting them to watch a film, even when it's, you know, the children's, where they have the lights only partially dimmed. Even that, just nightmare, just no thanks. One child, yeah, you can deal with, but two. So yeah, I mean, we had it briefly again this summer holiday. We had a day out with one of the boys' friends from school, and they'd there was another friend with them, and so there's 4 children and 2 mums. We'd taken them up to the beach in town, and then we went and had lunch, and then we did various other things. Anyway, crazy, mad, busy, full-on fun day. By the time we got back, the mum of their school friend, she said, I don't know how you cope. I'm absolutely on my knees. She's like, seriously? And I'm like, yeah, you get used to that tiredness. Trust me, it just becomes part of you. You're permanently exhausted pigeon. You just live with it. You roll with it. So, but yeah, what? Because she'd had 2 to deal with, and normally she's only got the 1, and it was 2 at the same age, obviously. She's going, ah. So there was a number of times when there was one occasion while we were out, they were having ice cream, they're all just clambering, because we bought this box of ice creams from Asda. And they're all clambering to try and get hold of the box. So we took them outside, and I said, everybody sit on the bench. You'll be handed your ice cream in a minute. So I handed out the ice creams. And then I said, right, and as soon as you're finished, you come to me, you get your hands cleaned, you get your face cleaned, and you put your rubbish in the bin. At which point my friend's standing next to me going, you're scary. I like you, but you're scary. But I mean, the kids did. They literally did. All 4 just sat and they did exactly as they were told. She'd look at me going, what? There are times when you could just be a bit like, oh, go for it. But then there are times that, no. This has to be this way. And it has to be, you know, there are times when you do have to be somewhat stricter, perhaps, than if you've only got the 1.
So, you're originally, are you originally from Luton? Is that correct?
Yeah, but I was only there 2.5 years.
Right. As it, where you were born, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Where did you, where have you lived after? Because you mentioned you've lived in,
Lots of places. Basically, my dad was, when I say was, because he's now retired, well, supposedly retired, but that's a whole different thing, that one. But he was a lay minister with the Church of England, which meant that the job he got would come with a house. So if the job went, the house went, we'd have to move on. So yes, so I was born in Luton, but I was only there 2.5 years. We then moved up to Prudder, Gateshead, that way. Again, we were there about 5.5, 6 years. We then moved down to Saltash in Cornwall. So literally across the Tamar from Plymouth. So go across the Tamar Bridge, and there's Saltash. And again, we were there 5.5, 6 years. We then moved to Luxillian, which is by St Austell, Bodmin area, as middle of Cornwall as you can get, basically. And that's when all the drama started for me, really. Let's put it that way. And then we moved to Hove, Brighton and Hove. And then I briefly moved to Ashford before joining mum and dad in Stafford. And then because I was continuing my flying, I got in contact with a friend of my dad's who had a spare room, and they were living at the time in Crawley, which 20 minutes to Gatwick Airport. And they said, well, we've got a spare room, come and live with us. And I mean, they've turned into a second mum and dad for me. They're godparents now to the boys. And their daughter was bridesmaid at our wedding. So they're just a second family, basically. So yeah, so I lived there. And then obviously, so I bounced for about 4 years, I think it was 4 or 5 years between Crawley when I was working, which was 8 months, and then the 4 months I wasn't working, I was up in Stafford with mum and dad. Um, and then obviously when I met Peter, we then bought the house in Rugby, and then I moved to Rugby, which was I think my 11th move or 12th move, something like that. But then I've also lived and worked out in America as well for 3 summers. So yeah, so I've been around.
Time in rugby, or was that before still?
That was before. That was when I was 18, 19, 20.
So does it feel like, because you've been in rugby now for the past, how many years? Like almost a decade, is it?
8 years.
8 years. Do you feel like your life is sort of, aside from the two,
Crazies.
do you feel like your life is kind of settled, and
Yes.
more peaceful, maybe, more?
To a degree,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, I still have moments. At the moment, I'm going through a crazy redecorating stage, which is driving poor Peter insane. Because, like I said, basically we decided that the boys had reached the stage where they were no longer trashing the joint and they could have a proper boys' bedroom, which meant, so we did all that. I got my mum to help me, put new carpet down, got all sorts of stuff in there. That cleared the room, the front spare room. And because that was clear, I was going, oh, you know what? I could turn that into a reading craft room. So I've been redecorating that, new carpet, all the rest of it. I've still got 2 bookshelves to go in there yet, and a load of books on the bed at the moment in there, just causing mess and chaos, but I can't do anything about it. But once I'd got that sorted, I then decided the lounge needed a redecorating. And then we needed new curtains because I'm not a fan of blinds, and we had blinds all through the house. So I'm slowly taking the blinds down and getting curtains up. But so I put new curtains in the dining room. I then got new curtains for the lounge and decided that I needed to paint the walls so that they matched the new curtains and new carpet we're going to have in. So I've repainted the lounge. I had to do the ceiling anyway because we had a leak which caused a mark. So I had to paint the ceiling anyway. So I was like, well, I might as well do the rest of it. I then decided that the hallway and the stairway, the downstairs, upstairs, stairway, all of that needed redoing. So I've repainted all of that as well. And I've already decided that our bedroom at some point needs doing. But poor Peter's tearing his hair out going, oh. But I think it is because I spent so much of my life moving. After so many years, I'm like, it needs to change.
Yeah.
It needs to change. I don't want to move, but it just needs to change. So, yeah.
I think there's kind of a meme on if you use TikTok or Instagram, it's like always there's a lot of like husband and wife memes on that, that Donna ends up sending me and I send back, and one of them is like husband sits down on the couch and the wife is immediately like, oh, I've got some projects to do. And yes, it's it yeah. So let's just go and talk about just your roles. So we've explored kind of your past jobs and your upbringing and the kids and the family. So as the school governor, you've definitely invested in your community's future, and what motivates you to take the role of school governor, and what does that entail?
I think I was wanting to know a bit more about the school, but so yeah, so it was basically I just wanted to know about the school the boys were being involved in, what was going on behind the scenes a bit more. Plus, as it's turned out, there's been a couple of occasions when actually it's been quite good because as parent governor, I've been able to veto things that they've tried to sneak in. And I'm not going down that line, but there's certain elements that they're trying to sneak in. Then as parent governor and a Christian, I've been able to veto, which has been great to be able to do that. So yeah, so it was just trying to be a part of the children's education and the children's life, and it's great because there are things like I can go, because I'm a parent governor, I can go on the school trips with the boys, so I can be there with the boys. Was I can see I can be a part of their school life, and be there. which is great fun.
Do they appreciate that, or do they? Oh, it's mum again,
At the moment, they like it. Ask again in a few years. But at the moment, they like it. But yes, it's just all I have to do is there's meetings. Well, it's once a month every term. When the term during term time, it's well, actually, it's every other month during. Usually is how it rolls, which is similar to the other one, a trustees one. So it's just a Zoom call. So just have to sit there and listen to them, tell us what's going on about the finances or what's happening in the school, and vote on anything that needs voting or whatever. So yeah,
Do you propose things as well? Is that
yeah. If there's something comes up, I've not as yet because there's nothing that's needed to come up. But yeah, if there was something, then yes, have the option.
And you also, as you're serving as a trust secretary for New Life, for the church here, you're openly, and you do children's work. Yes, you're part of the Sunday mornings. Is that right?
Yeah, the Epic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you obviously openly share your Christian faith, in your job wherever you've been. How does your faith influence your kind of your daily life and the roles in the community as well, outside of those things, outside of being the governor and
Um, I don't know really. I suppose it's just in my general attitude, my general way of life. I don't think there is anything particular. I mean, I know with regards to my friends, like I said, some of the friends that boys have from school, their mums aren't Christians themselves, but they know very much I am. And there've been times when they've asked me to pray about certain situations and certain people and things like that. So the fact that they feel comfortable to do that. So yeah, so it's just I don't know really if there's anything in spectacular or it's just general day to day. It just is. I mean, even at the gym, I've now started chatting to a few of the ladies I regularly see certain classes, and they now know I'm Christian. And one of them has asked me for prayers recently. So again, that's another element which is just generally just nothing big was said or done. I can't even remember how the conversation came up. Something came up, and it just just general chat.
but you do support a lot of charities as well, right? And there's a lot of things you're involved in. I mean, how do those get together? Do you just sort of start putting out?
Yeah, well, if you mean things like the litter picking, that was actually an initiative started by my dad at his church, St Oswald's, and I decided it'd be a great opportunity to bring some churches together, and so trying to involve New Life. So I thought, well, actually, if we bring the two together, then actually it's connecting the churches, getting them all to work together. It's great. It's a big passion of my dad's, and it's something I've kind of picked up as well.
But you've raised money as well for other things for initiatives.
Yeah, well, I've done bake sales for either. Again, I think my dad was running a half marathon or 10K, so raised money for a particular charity. That was linked to my sister-in-law's brother, who sadly took his life. And so there's a charity that helps young men in those kind of situations to reach out instead of taking that option. So my dad ran for that. So I did a bake sale for that. I've helped with bake sale for a lady at Footsteps who had cancer. And so I was helping for that. Yeah, generally, if there's a way, because I love baking and I love baking, so it's not that's not a difficult ask for me. So if you want me,
So if anyone's got a charity initiative, then or wants needs to raise some money for their charity, basically just needs to get in touch with Tabitha, and she'll bake some cakes, and
quite happily.
then they're really nice cakes as well. I've had some of those cakes, when you've sold them at church and everything, and yeah,
Quite
that's all we're
happily.
gonna do, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Well, I think it's been a fantastic, fantastic interview, and I don't know if there's any other topics that we sort of didn't cover, we missed out, but
Covered most things.
So I think what I'll do is I'll just ask you, a question that we ask every guest.
Uh-oh.
Um, so if you rock up at the pearly gates of heaven and Saint Peter hands you a disposable camera, what's the first picture you're taking?
Oh, I don't know. Selfie of me and St. Peter. I'm not sure, actually. I'm not sure what I would do. Yeah. Um, yeah, well, maybe a picture of the gates.
Yeah.
Say, I've made it. I'm here. I'm home. I've
Amazing.
come home. So, yeah.
Yeah, pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Tabitha, for joining us. Maybe if there's a sort of another charity event or something going on, you want to talk about that if there's something
Yeah.
close to your heart. But yeah, it's been great chatting and learning a bit about you.
Yes.
Um,
Thank you.
yeah, thanks for coming on. Well, thanks for joining us once again and listening to that podcast episode. We hope you enjoyed the content. And if you haven't already, subscribe, whichever platform you're listening on or watching from. And we'll catch you again for the next episode of Life Explored.